I'm going to start with my 100 Ornithopters cube because it's a little bit easier on account of the harsh restrictions on the number of cards I can play. And I have not looked at these cards yet with any actual intensity. Some people have posted a couple things here or there to the channel for the cube in the Cube Talk Discord, but I have not really strongly considered any of these. Normally, I fill out the survey directly on the survey page, and this is where I see the cards for the first time. But because I'm ignoring all creatures, anything that endures or anything that mobilizes or otherwise makes creature tokens, I've got a little filter here in Scryfall, and we are just going to look through this way, and I'll tell you what I think as I think about it. First one that jumps out at me is aggressive negotiations, because I have been looking for more duress effects for this cube. I recently added both Thoughtseize and Inquisition of Kozilek, which I was hesitant to do because they're just kind of generically good, but black was lacking in interaction. Black doesn't get disenchants, and artifacts or enchantments are super important in this cube. And black not getting disenchants, I mean, there are a couple ways to destroy enchantments. I've thought about adding them, but for the most part, black's interaction is really just hand hate, and I was on just duress for the longest time. And duress is great here, really, really strong. So I added Inquisition and Thoughtseize out of a need to go deeper on that theme, but they don't really have anything to do with Ornithopters at all, whereas Aggressive Negotiations does. Now, it's not very good, mind you, so it's going to get a low rating, but that's at least what I'm considering. Death and Indestructible, no. All-Out Assault, I don't think is enough. A general +1/+1 buff in 100 Ornithopters is not very strong, because it means your Ornithopters still just bounce off of their Ornithopters. There's no good blocks, or there's no good attacks, really, when your opponents can just bounce off of things, so you need more to sort of stack on there. Regrowth at instant speed and blue-green. This is a cool card, at least. It's not for this cube, but it's a pretty cool card. Destroy target non-land opponent, mill 3 cards, discard a card, turn creature card. Yeah, nah, not worth 3 colors for Awaken the Honored Dead. Barren Step Siege. Okay, so +1/+1 count on each creature you control every end step is something for 4 mana. Dynamic control. So the second one's not. It doesn't matter at all. This would just be for the Abzan mode. You would play Barren Siege, but for that mode, I think it's at least worth considering for this cube. Yeah, not going to touch any lands. Breaching Dragonstorm. None of the Dragonstorms, because they all care about dragons. Dragons. Harmonize is a mechanic people have brought up as being interesting for this cube, but I think they're right, because, you know, it cares about power of a creature, and this is a cube where all the creatures have 0 power until you do something to them, and then you can have creatures with a high power level. It's possible. 2 damage staying target is not going to be in. That doesn't meet my restrictions. Can't kill people with burn. Coordinated maneuver. All right. This is an interesting answer for more planeswalkers if I want to go further for planeswalker answers, but I don't think I need to, so I'm going to skip coordinated maneuver. Quarry Mountain Monastery was one that somebody floated as like just a source of generic card advantage, and then that led to the discussion going to Castle Lochthwain, which I think is much better than this for this cube, and I'm not yet on that, but I think I will be on Castle Lochthwain at some point. Quarry Steel Cutter, +1/+1 mixed token, can't do it. Surveil 2, Dragon, more just generic card draw, more creature tokens. Destroy all creatures and enchantments, draw a card for each permanent. Start this way, 8 mana, not going to do it. No. Desperate Measures. Okay, so this one I am going to test, and I actually have kind of high hopes for. It, in a sacrifice deck, if you have another sacrifice outlet, it is just another copy of Village Rites, basically. You can just draw 2 cards off of a creature that's going to die. And it works that way with Echoing Boon in a really powerful way. Echoing Boon doubles this spell, so you can target that creature twice, and the copies will actually both, you're going to get to draw 4 cards because of it, because the first one resolves, makes it a 1/1 instead of an 0/2, and it gains the ability when it dies under this turn, you draw 2 cards. Then the second one hits it, and so you have 2 layers of that stacked up. So that I think is actually kind of interesting. My only real concern about that is that it would really only be played with Echoing Boon, and I want all the Echoing Boon cards to be good on their own as well. Behold a Dragon, Dragon. I love dragons, not for this cube, obviously. No. No. I could actually just add, how many cards did I filter down to? Filter down to 128. This is pretty safe. Sometimes this catches some false positives, but it's pretty safe to filter that out. Okay. We are down to here. double the power of his target creature, then it fights up to one target creature. I do love Berserk effects here, but the fighting is really not that relevant, and I'm already on much better Berserks in the form of Berserk and also Legion Leadership. So this much harder to cast Berserk variant is not going to get there. +2/+2, hexproof for monocolored. Wellness activate for each color. Yeah, that's not going to do it. More Beholding Dragons, or Targeting Dragons, more dragon stuff. Duty Beyond Death is a reprint, right? Is that a reprint? No. What am I thinking of? I don't know. This is a card I actually, maybe I'm just thinking of, I saw this in spoiler season and was very excited about it for this cube. And so I'm going to add that over here. I think it has a lot of potential here. Encroaching Dragonstorm. And nope. Evolving Wilds like it. So this definitely does have reprints. Alright, down even more. Fire Rim Form. Ooh, quite a card name. First Strike, just not going to do it. Focus the Mind. A cool card. And you are going to be able to easily cast an Ornithopter and then this directly. So you can just make this a divination basically all the time. Smile at Death is my favorite pickup. I haven't gotten there yet. We'll see. I really have not been paying attention to the cards as they've been spoiled, so I'm looking at a lot of these for the first time. Frostcliff Siege is interesting. I've been wanting a Coastal Piracy effect, and this one is not quite that, because Coastal Piracy is whenever a creature deals combat damage to a player, you draw a card, and this is whenever one or more. So you're mostly going to draw only one card a turn. I think it makes it not good enough. But I do like having both Trample and Haste enablers in the cube. I mean, it's going to get a low rating, I'll tell you right now, but let's at least put it here, because it's a Haste and Trample enabler for the combo decks, and potentially a value engine for just an ongoing mid-range deck or whatever. Discard non-land. Yeah, no. Glacierwood Siege. No, Mill. Don't want that. Herd Heirloom. Only casting creature spells. That's not going to do anything. Heritage Reclamation would be very strong, but I am not looking for more of that. Usman, you always put so much pressure on yourself to write these things. And I'm sorry IRL has been kicking your butt. I have had my last week was a low executive function week, and I made up for it today by having a high executive function day. But life can be hard. I hope it gets better for you. Hollowmurk Siege. Whenever a counter is put on a creature you control, draw a card. This is actually very exciting, I think. These sieges, they're a lot of reading. And the thing I don't love about these kind of cards is, like, very often one mode is going to be much better than the other mode. Like Barren Steppe Siege, you're never really going to name Mardu. Frostcliff, you could actually reasonably name both. Hollowmurk Siege is probably mostly going to be Abzan, but you actually could name the other mode very reliably in a certain deck if you have ways to put counters on, especially instant speed. Like if you have the new Ozolith or Bow of Nylea, and you can put counters on your opponent's end step, or opponent's turn, rather. You say the UR Siege is much better than people think. I am not in a brain space right now to evaluate this for a non-ridiculous cube, so I will trust you on that. Can't be countered, Vindicate, or Utter End, rather. No. 2 exile spells based on... interesting. I do like this cycle. Not for this cube, but I like the village cycle. Knockout Maneuver. Yeah, the fight spells just generally tend not to be worth it here. Certainly, like, worth it for the mana they cost. Individual Ornithopter is worth so much less than... I will be looking at the Commander cards to True Medium. I'm doing regular set first, then Commander next. Creature card from graveyard to your hand. That's line weight is funny, but no. Giving it flying and indestructible for 2 mana, not good enough. Dragon or Omen spell. Molten Exhale. Nope. Nature's Rhythm is funny, but not funny in a good way. Yeah, I'm going to get to the Commander cards. There's actually a lot of those for this cube, I think, specifically. I really like the art on Parination. I assume that's how it's pronounced. Parination. It's very cool. Next time I search for New Way Forward is kind of crazy. Like deflecting palm, but you also draw a gazillion cards. Pretty nuts. This is for 100 Ornithopters first that I'm going over, yeah. Okay, when I first built this cube, like really wanted more things that destroyed non-creature artifacts, so I'm glad they're exploring that space. This is not the kind of card I want for this cube, but I wanted ways to destroy. It's the background of the survey page, right? Great question. It is. I guess Anthony also likes it. And here's how you find out that Anthony makes the survey pages. Okay, more Beholding Dragons. Top 4 cards in your library, 2 and harvest in your graveyard. Rebellious Strike. So Rebellious Strike is the kind of card that, like, it's good with the Echoing Boon, but probably not good enough without it. And compared to something like Fists of Flame, I don't think it's good enough. And there's so many cards that are just really good with Echoing Boon, so we can't play them all. Nor should we. Rediscover the Way is kind of interesting. So you draw 2 cards, and then you get to give a bunch of Ornithopters double strike, probably. I don't think it's there for me. 3 colors is really hard. Okay. That becomes a monk token. Can't do that. That's just a blue Swords to Plowshares. Can't do that. Rite of Renewal is a really interesting card to me. Again, not for this cube, but this is a cool combination of getting 2 things back, shuffling things into your library, good art. Riverwalk Technique. Tap target creature, 3 stun counters. Top 2 cards in your library. Okay, none of those. Roamer's Routine. No. Dragonstorm. Sarkhan's Resolve. Destroy target creature or +3/+3. I mean, it's probably not interesting enough, I guess. It's good. A pump spell / a murder spell, but it's really good against the kind of decks I don't want to punish. 2 dark creatures +1 to end of turn. Seize Opportunity is also fine, but not very exciting. All right, this is one you're excited about, right, Bones? Smile at Death. At the beginning of your upkeep, return up to 2 target creature cards of power 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Put a +1/+1 counter on each of those creatures. 5 mana. Get 2 Ornithopters back every turn. They get a +1/+1 counter. We'll talk about how excited I am about all these cards after I've finished putting them on a list. 1 less cast for each creature you can hold power 4 or greater. Spectral Denial is kind of a cool Stubborn Denial callback. 1 less to cast for each. That's a cool one. Not for this cube. All right, Static Snare I am very excited about, I think. I don't think I like it as much as I like Conclave Tribunal. Static Snare. But I like removal that cares about you having Ornithopters. The thing about this is that it also counts your opponent's attacking creatures, which means you could just jam it in a sort of creatureless control deck and still have it be quite good, maybe, which I don't love that part. Stillness in Motion rules. Got to find a cue to play that in, but this is not it, I don't think. Don't like the self-mill there. Storm Beacon Blade, +3/+0. Attacks, draw a card if you control threat. This is a perfect card that like could be very reasonable. Makes a thing a threat. It's a source of card advantage, ongoing, that rewards you for having creatures in play and attacking. That one I'm actually maybe kind of excited about. That's just an O-Ring. Synchronized Charge, 2 +1/+1 counters. Vigilance and Trample. If I was going to play any Harmonized card, it's probably Synchronized Charge. Okay, Thunder of Unity. We get to the first. Windmill Slam. This I'm actually really excited about. It's just another Impact Tremors, War Leader's Call style card, and it's on one that also just draws you 2 cards, which I I'm always just trying to put more card advantage in here as much as I can. People are going to ask about Ugin Eye of the Storms. I'm not going to try this out. First of all, it's going to be $1 zillion, it seems like. Second of all, it, I think, is going to be unbeatable if it resolves. There's not that much direct answers for Planeswalkers in this cube because there are very few Planeswalkers that need to be directly answered. And this is just a colorless aura shards that exiles instead of destroys, that also gains life and draws cards every turn, that also doesn't actually win the game. It's not a win condition, so you have to have some other way in your deck still to win the game. Your 7-mana Planeswalker is not going to do it. So that, to me, is just kind of a feel-bad card. I am not going to do it. Ain't going to do it. Unified Battlefront is kind of interesting, but I want people to have more Ornithopters in their deck. So no. Bounce Spell, no. No, no. 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 And no for worthy cost. There's a couple other worthy cost style things. Yeah, I think Ugin is not going to be healthy for this cube. All right, let's rate these cards. A little preview into my thinking here. Duty Beyond Death. Additional cost. So I like having ways to protect your creatures, and putting +1/+1 counters on each of them is a big upside. And I also like that this requires you to do something to get it, comparing it to cards I actually recently cut. So I used to have Heroic Intervention in here, and I cut that, and then I used to have, what was that other Dawn card? No, do not show me digital cards. No, never digital. No. What is the one I'm thinking of? Maybe someone's screaming it right now at chat. I don't see anybody screaming it at chat. The Dawn's Truce, that's the one. I had Dawn's Truce for a while too. But I think people just didn't play that because it's kind of complicated and maybe hard to evaluate how good the gift a card thing is for your opponent. I like this a lot more, I think, than both of those because this cares about Ornithopters, but also I don't think either was particularly strong, so I would put this at like a 3. Smile at Death is 5 mana, and Bones might hate this, but I'm not that down for the 5 mana, bring 2 things back every turn. Am I? I mean, how unique is it? It's recursion and also a threat because it puts counters on things. Though, interestingly, it doesn't put counters on things unless you bring things back, right? You can't just have all your creatures in play. Yeah, you can't have all your creatures in play and just dump counters on things. You know what? I'm hungry enough for white cards that I'll rate this a little higher. I'll rate this a little higher, Bones. Just for you. It is 5 mana. Static Snare. Pretty low on that. Just because I don't think it's almost what I want it to be, but really Conclave Tribunal is what I want. Conclave Tribunal is great, and I already have it. So what am I going to do? What's up, Boom Tack? Yeah, on the wind, the putting a single counter on things is tough, but you got to trust that people are going to have enough ways to put multiple counters on. And the fact that you can't put it on those same ones ever again because they have to come back is definitely a downside for that card. But I am hungry for white cards. I like Stormbeacon Blade a lot more. I don't think this is better on a power level than Smile at Death, for example, but I think it's more what I'm looking for. It makes an individual Ornithopter into a card that will kill an Ornithopter if it blocks it, and 3 or more attacking creatures, not other attacking creatures, so not that hard to pull off. I will say that Military Intelligence has been great here. That is 2 creatures instead of 3, and you don't have to have it equipped, which is a downside, but this thing also is a threat. So I think I am pretty into Stormbeacon Blade. I'm going to give that about a 5-ish. Aggressive Negotiations, let's be honest. I'm not going to do it. Desperate Measures. Probably a 3.5. I think it's probably just Echoing Boon bait. Right, I'm sorry. I keep forgetting that Boom Tack. You're going to have to forgive me for probably forgetting that again in the future. But yes, this is for 100 Ornithopters we're talking about here. In a Sacrifice deck, this is going to be 1 mana, draw 2 cards. Which is good. Maybe sometimes you get to snipe your opponent's creature. Well, probably almost never, though. And with Echoing Boon, this is nuts. It's 1 mana, draw 4. 1 mana, Village Rites, draw 4. But it's probably just bait for Echoing Boon, and I don't know that we need more bait for Echoing Boon. So I'm actually making it lower as I talk myself into it. Synchronized Charge. I don't think it's very good. It's just not powerful enough, I don't think, to see play compared to, like, Court of Garenbrag and all the other stuff we got going on here. Now we have the Sieges. Let's just get a Thunder of Unity. This is very nearly a 10 for me. I'm probably going to say it's like a 9. I could see Mardu being too hard, but this is exactly why I run the triomes in this cube. Yeah, I will definitely make the effort when you correct me, Boomtack. I promise. Anyway, the reason I run triomes in this cube is to make ambitious casting costs like this good and playable. So the only reason I can see cutting this in the future is if it turns out I just don't want that many Impact Tremors effects. But I think I do. I think that deck is very cool, and it's a very cool thing to do in this cube, and I'm into it. So I like that a lot. Let's talk about these sieges. The one I'm most excited about is Hollowmurk Siege. I will say one downside to that. I don't really care about keeping gold sections symmetrical, but I have so many Golgari cards and so many Boros cards that are great in this cube, and it's pretty hard to find cards in other color combinations that work. And so adding another Golgari card, my only thought is that it kind of just rewards whatever player ends up in that color combination a little too much if you just have 4 gold cards going around the table in your color combo, and somebody in blue-red has none. I'm sorry, you get Quicksilver Dagger. You get Quicksilver Dagger, which is good. We like that. I'd say I'm about as excited for this as I am for Storm Beacon Blade. I think they both have maybe a little more. It's certainly more unique than Storm Beacon Blade. Let's give it a 6. 3. What are you saying, Keldon? I don't know what those symbols mean, Keldon. You gotta spell that out. Frostcliff Siege is one I think I'm the least excited about for this cube. So its War Leader's Call is in Boros, and Impact Tremors is just mono red. So that's the third of the Impact Tremors style effects. Frostcliff Siege, I don't think drawing 1 card a turn for 3 mana is enough. Like, Storm Beacon Blade is going to draw a card a turn for 4 mana and also make an Ornithopter a threat, and also have synergies with the other equipment stuff that's going on in there. And then I think this as a trample and haste enabler is just not good enough, and it's a complicated card with a lot to read. Barren Step Siege. All right. End step, put a plus. This one, I think that the end step, like the Abzan mode, is fine, but I don't like having all this additional sort of distraction text on here because you're never going to do the Mardu mode, basically ever, which I think is a big downside for that card. All right, how do I feel about these? Synchronized Charge, Barren Step Siege, Frostcliff Siege, Aggressive Negotiations. We are acknowledging, but not actually going to probably play almost at all. Static Snare and Desperate Measures have a little bit of a shot, maybe. Duty Beyond Death and Smile at Death a little more. And then the cards I actually will probably seek out and feel excited about here are Storm Beacon Blade, Hollowmurk Siege, and Thunder of Unity. Though, as I'm sitting here talking about it, I think I'm actually going to swap these two. I think I'm a little more excited about Storm Beacon Blade and a tiny itty-bitty bit less on Hollowmurk Siege, just because it's another gold card. But Thunder of Unity. Wow. Beautiful. We love it. Yeah, I don't think the blue-red Siege is very good here. All right. That's the first thing. Great. Now we're going to jump over to talk about the commander list. All right, still 100 Ornithopters. There's already... Oh, no. What am I doing? Searching for Thundy? Thundy? All right. Here, I don't think it's worth doing a filter because there's not that many new cards. Let's just look through them and figure this out on our own. These are all creatures. We can skip all those. Aligned Heart. This is the... All right, makes creature tokens. No. Reunion of the House. See, this is funny. Like, this is just not good here. 7 mana is way too much for this effect. I think some people would look at this and think, that seems good. But, yeah, Broker's Ascendancy is a lot better than the Siege, I think. And that one I'm not particularly good at. Do you have any success stories from testing out cards you rated 1 on these surveys? So to be honest, Tim, the ones I rate as 1, I probably won't actually myself test. I mean, the surveys are open to how people want to interpret them. They're there, and I'm acknowledging them as like a card that if somebody else tells me, hey, this ended up being great or really fun, then I could see myself to testing it. But frankly, I'm not going to do that. I could check back on the, we can actually real quick. Let's see. Articles, Aether Drift, Perspective Surveys. Where's the link to our... There you go. Search past submissions. Andy Mangold. Let's filter by 1. But not 10. All right, not Light Shield Parry. Didn't play that. Did not play Perilous Snare, Unstoppable Plan. That's a 10. Mockingbird, Higher Claw, Infamous Cruel Claw. Okay, Essence Reliquary might become a success story for a 1, honestly, because I'm thinking more and more about this card for 100 Ornithopters and might get there. So that one could become one such success story. Nope, none of those. Nothing is jumping out, is what it comes down to. So I think no success stories right now. If I had more time, I might dig more deeply into that. All right, Tempest Technique. Now there's a card. We are for sure playing Tempest Technique. I'm very excited about that. I love Croson Adaptation, and this is different but similar, and I think it'll be very fun here. And it means I have to get a bunch of copies, which I'm not really excited about, but I need a bunch of token copies for the box. Adaptive Training Post is funny, but no. More creatures. Will of the Teamer. Creature tokens. Afterlife of the Loam. No. More critters. Jaws of Defeat. Jaws of Defeat. Jaws of Defeat. For Croson Adaptation, they were cheap, and so I got like 30 copies, but I think realistically like 10 or 15 copies is probably reasonable. More creature tokens. Sacrifice a creature we don't remember. X to sacrifice creature's toughness. That's kind of cute, but it's a perfect example of the kind of card that does not hang on rate here. There are so many cheaper, more efficient Ravs that even though this is cute based on how the cube works, it's just not good enough. More creature tokens. Nope. Control commanders. We don't like controlling commanders. Infantry shield. Nope. Mobilize. Can't do mobilizing. More creatures. Transforming flourish. Yeah, we don't want any of that kind of effect. I forget what the... I could use normal copy tokens for that kind of thing. I think it's less fun, personally. I don't like the cards that care about controlling your commander. People recommended Zenith Festival. It's too generic for me for this cube to be exciting. Become the Avalanche. Draw a card for each creature power 4 greater than creatures get +S/+X, where X is the number of cards in your hand. A funky overrun, but no. Will of the Sultai cares about commanders. So really it's just these two, but I'm very excited about this one. I'm going to put it a little lower. It is still 4 mana. I'm going to say this is at 8. I think it's awesome. And I genuinely like that the Storm cards are good against counter magic here, because counterspells are very good, and this is the kind of card that's really good against counterspells and just like disenchant removal. So I really like that. Okay, Bones. For a second, I thought you were actually correcting me, but you're just making a dumb dad joke. I'm talking myself more and more into this Tempest Technique. Jaws of Defeat, I'm a little less interested in. This is another Impact Tremors effect. We just talked about having Impact Tremors, War Leader's Call, and we're adding the new Mardu Saga. Jaws of Defeat is 2 instead of 1, but it costs 4. I'm going to put this a little lower. It is monocolor, which obviously is easier to cast, but like this is the kind of card that's so much more likely to just lead to you having like a potato do-nothing hand that just doesn't function because you just didn't draw enough Ornithopters for this to be lethal, and so it just is what it is. It is very cool, though. I might go a little higher. I definitely want to try it. This, again, will come down to the density of how many Impact Tremors effects I want, but if I don't want one of those 4 I just named, it's probably Jaws of Defeat. Probably? I don't know. We'll see. I like those 2 cards quite a bit, though. That's 100 Ornithopters. I'm going to end the recording here so I can upload that to YouTube separately.